Hello everyone, in this video we're going to continue working on the home screen widget. So this screen is going to have a list of Pokemons, so we're going to look at how to work with list views, list styles, as well as having our own custom objects in our application. So first thing we want to do is create a new folder under lib, and then we'll call it models. And then we'll create a new file called pokemon.dart. So every Pokemon will have the following properties. They'll have an ID, a name, a list of types, and then other attributes like hit points, attack, defense, and speed. So let's create this model. So we'll say class Pokemon. And then we'll say final string ID. Then I'll copy this and then name. And then final list of type string types. And then final int hit points 1, 2, 3. Then here I'll say attack, defense, and speed. Now we also want to create a constructor. So an easy way to do this is if we hover over this, we can say create constructor for final fields, and this will create the constructors for us. Now we also want this to be named constructors, so we don't have to worry about the order of how the arguments are passed in. So I'm going to wrap all of this with curly braces, and then I will select this and then do Command D to select all of them, and then I'll go back and type required. And now we have a constructor for our class. Next thing we want to do, you'll find a link at the bottom of this video that will have data for all the Pokemons that we want to display. And all of these, and what this file is just a list of Pokemons, and each one is an object instantiated from the Pokemon class. So what you'll need to do is do Command A to select everything, and then Control C or Command C. And then under lib, we'll create another folder called data. And then under that we'll create a file called pokemons.dart, and then I'll paste that. So now we have a list of Pokemons. And if you notice that the ID is a number, and it's a number from 1 to 151, and this ID is the same as the name of the image. So if you look at the images, we have small and large. So the ID references the name of the image. Let's go back to the home screen. And let's add a list view widget under body. So we'll say ListView.builder. And this will take in a few arguments. So we have the item builder and an item count. For the item count, we'll get the length of the Pokemon's list. So say Pokemons.length. And you'll notice that this imported the Pokemon's list from our data directory. And then the item builder is a function, so this will take in a context and an index. And essentially what this is doing is it will call this function for every single index in the Pokemon's length, and it will return some UI element to display for this list item. So we can return a list tile, and let's just add something to display on the screen. So I'll say here text hello, and we'll make this a const, and you'll see that it rendered the text widget hello for every item in our Pokemon's list. Now using this index, we'll be able to access an individual Pokemon in the Pokemon's list. So what we can do is we can say final Pokemon is equals to Pokemons at index, and what will happen is that for every single index we will have access to this particular object, the object for the corresponding index. So for the first one we'll have access to this, second we'll have access to this, and so on. So what we can do is rather than rendering the text hello, we can render Pokemon.name. Now once we add this, we need to also remove the const, because this is no longer a constant. and you can see that we're rendering the name for every Pokemon. Now let's look at what the list tile widget gives us. So it gives us a leading widget, and here we can add the image. It gives us the title, and then it gives us a subtitle widget and a trailing widget. So let's work on building this. So for the leading widget, I'll add an image.asset, and I'll say assets slash images slash small slash, and then I'll render the Pokemon.id and then .png. So if we look at our assets folder, so we have images and then small, and then we have images for the Pokemon. And if we go back to the home screen, what we're essentially doing is that for every index, we have access to one particular object of Pokemon. So for example, for the first one, the ID is 001. So in home screen, the value of this ID would be 001. So we're going to go into our assets directory and get that image and display it on the screen. So if I save this, it should display the image of all the Pokemons. Now next step, let's add a list of types under the title. So for that, I will create a subtitle widget, and then I'll say wrap. And for the children, we'll say Pokemon.types, and then .map, and then every type will render a chip with the label being text, and then passing in the type. And a background color, I'll give it a custom background color, so I say const color, and then 0x FFDFE6 E9. And right now, when we look at the error, the children widget takes in a type of list. However, when we do .map, this returns a type of iterable. So what we need to do is at the end of the map statement, we need to say .toList. So now you can see we're rendering the different types. Now we also want to add some spacing here. So I'll just add in the wrap widget, we'll say spacing is 4. And we'll do the same thing for run spacing. So run spacing is also 4. Run spacing is if we overflow. So let's say we have too many types and it goes to the second row, we can have some spacing between the rows. Now where is this list of types coming from? Again, they're coming from the Pokemon's list. So if we go to Pokemon's, you can see that the types are here. So we're mapping over all of these arrays. Let's go back to the home screen. Next widget we want to add is the trailing widget on the right. So as you can see here, we have hit points and then the value. So in order to do that, we will go under subtitle here and we'll create a new one called trailing, and then we'll say column children, and then first one will be the headline. So it will say text HP textile, and we'll do font weight is equals to font weight dot bold, and then the color will be K light gray. Next, let's add the hit point value. So we'll say text Pokemon dot hit points dot toString. So the value of hit points is an integer, so we need to convert it to a string to be able to render in the text widget. Let's also give it some styling, so we'll say text style, and then font family will be Pokemon. We'll have font size will be 18, and then font weight will be font weight dot W400, and then the color will be K dark gray. And we can make this text style a constant. So now you can see we have the headline and the value. Now let's also add a size box between them. So here I'll say const sized box height of 4. Now the next thing we want to add is a divider between the list items. So instead of using a ListView.builder, we'll say ListView.separated, and this takes in an additional argument, which is separator builder, and it's another function, takes in a context and an index, and it will render a divider. And we'll make this a const. Save that, and you can see now we have a divider.